Welcome in to That's a Tap with DJ and CT. We're going to preview the big pay-per-view coming up to start the year. DJ, great to see you. How are you feeling?
Great to see you, my man. I'm good. How are you? How's things so at that end?
Things are doing well, recovering from a big holiday season, ready to ring in the year. You're looking
Yeah,
in festive vibes.
festive vibes and festive shape, man. I'm ready to compete in the heavyweight division right now. You got a few extra pounds to shed, but hey, that's all right. We got a year ahead and some crazy good cards to motivate us to stay in shape. So, yeah. And
You could
talking of which, yeah.
you could give Tyson Fury, I think, a good fight right now. Now that he's
Oh, man, he's retired now. He's retired for the foreseeable future. Um, Man, look, talking of which, January, guess what? We've got a card coming up, but traditionally, UFC, they start the year, they give us a decent card and then they tend to pick up momentum as you go. That's what the case with last year. We had Drickus and Strickland. Ironically, they're fighting in Feb this time. And then they just build momentum. We remember we had the UFC 298 with Volk. Ilya, and then 299 in Miami with the O'Malley Vera card, and it just kept getting better and better. But obviously, this year, they've just decided let's go all guns blazing. Let's just kick the year off in style, and that's what they've done. They've given us a mouth-watering card in UFC 311. Pretty good matchups. I'm sure we're going to get into the details very shortly. But man, like, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? Like, you see, we know we've now we're no strangers to MMA and UFC. We've been following the sport for a very long time, and we tend to have a good gauge in terms of how good the cards are, in terms of the stack meter and all that kind of jazz. What do you think? What do you think of this card?
Yeah, DJ, it's a great question. Looking at it, like it kind of crept up on me as we were just saying, because I've been us from the Oz region, Asia Pacific. I've been focusing a little more on the Sydney card in
Hmm.
February, and sort of as that's been developing, and they just completely forgot about how good this card is,
Yeah.
to start the year. And I think, as we break it down, we talk about we'll give the fights that we're most looking forward to, but I mean, I think you're right, spot on. This has a potential to be a 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 when we end up like reviewing it. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely, man. It's got the ingredients to deliver what you just said. Not very often do we get two major title fights, right? Two of the most exciting divisions currently in the UFC, which is the lightweight division, and then you got the bantamweight division, two divisions that are on fire. Like lightweight's always on fire, ever since. You go dial the clock back, and you still see from the early days of Rafael dos Anjos, the Alvarez, Conor McGregor, Khabib. It's just the championships and the interim champs. It's just the caliber of fighters that division produces. It's top notch. Then you got the bantamweight division, man. You get like usually we tend to look at top 10 for most of the divisions, but with a division like bantamweight, you just go top 15. You still got names that are any day, any given day, on a good day, are capable of beating anyone in that top 15. So it's a crazy stacked division, and yeah, like and this card obviously got Makachev and Umar Nurmagomedov, fighting for their respective championships. One's defending it, and the others challenging for the championship. It's an iconic night for that gym. A stellar gym, a much respected gym in the world of mixed martial arts. Founded by obviously the late father of Khabib, and then now Khabib runs most of heads that gym in Dagestan, Russia, and they also have their affiliation with AKA in San Jose. So it's a pretty solid gym, man. Like a, a great team. And look, they have got three fighters who are fighting that night. So the start of the card and the end of the card is fighters from that gym. So it's going to be a long night for the corners. But man, like one thing we know about fighters from that region, from that gym, are like they're top notch. They're just top notch. Um, you can see with the records that they're coming in. Umar Nurmagomedov's undefeated. Islam's just got that one loss. We know how that happened. He got caught. That's it. But since then, the rest's history. He's been atop of the pound for pound list rankings. Dana might not agree, but he's been there for a considerable time now. He took out one of our very own when he was at the top of the pound for pound list. So yeah, man, like just the skill set in that main event itself is enough for me to say, look, I don't want to do anything on Sunday. I just want to watch this fight.
Yeah, definitely, man. To ring in the new year, it's going to be a banger, and I can't wait for the press conference too.
Phew.
As always, we're going to recap it, break it down early next week
Yeah.
after the weekend. But let's run through each matchup of the main card, and then we'll talk about what you're most looking forward to. Um,
Hmm.
start from the main event, the main card,
Yeah.
headline. Obviously, Islam Makhachev, Arman Tsarukyan, incredible, right? Two
Yeah.
huge names. I mean, what do you think?
Absolutely, man. I'll answer part of your question there itself, which is what's the fight that you're most looking forward to? It's the main event. That's a no-brainer. Like while there's some it's a pretty stacked card, pretty solid fights, household names. For me, the most exciting fight in this card is a no-brainer. It is the main event. Arman Tsarukyan versus Islam Makhachev. Two. Let's not forget that this is a rematch. This is the second rematch, if I'm not mistaken, in Islam's career. The first one was Alex Volkanovski. It happened in the same year. This one, although, is happening 5 years later, if I'm not mistaken. 2019, April, they fought for the first time. Ironically, that was a short notice fight for Arman. That was his debut in the UFC. Islam's opponent fell off, and they had to get someone. So Arman is from that region, was creating waves. Regardless of that short notice call up, I am confident that he would have made into the UFC scene, but that just fast tracked that path into the UFC. And man, he gave Islam one of the toughest fights. It was a pretty exciting fight. One fight of the night. Islam obviously also. I always say this when there's a short notice fight. There's a lot of credit given to the guy taking that fight and coming in, but we tend to forget the person accepting it as well, who's been training for an entirely different fight and then had to switch things up because it's short notice for both of them. So um, which made way for an exciting fight. I think Aman did a lot of things that surprised a lot of people, taking Islam down, striking with him, making it very close. Uh, yeah, man, it was a unanimous decision win for Islam at the end of it, but to think that it was a debut fight, it was a short notice fight, is pretty impressive. And we've seen Arman Tsarukyan be on a run since then. Since that fight, Arman Tsarukyan's only lost once, and Islam's obviously never lost. And the loss in Arman Sarukyan's record since that fight was to Matthews Gamrot. And that was if you haven't seen that fight, if you're an MMA fan, you need to go watch that fight. Some of the scrambles in that fight, man, the grappling was insane and high level. It was such a close fight; it could have gone either way. That's what it was. That's what I saw in that fight. So even though that's a loss, that's a very commendable loss in Arman's account. And then since then, he's been on a run. He obviously beat Charles Oliveira, who we know is extremely tough to beat and extremely dangerous. Yes, it was a split decision win. This again, that fight's up for debate. Regardless, he's got a win on that record. He's beaten Charles Oliveira. He's the number one contender. And credit to the champ, man. The champ it speaks volumes of the skill set of the champ because he is not worried about anyone else because he has that much belief in his skill set, and rightfully so. To be honest, he's the best fighter, or if not one of the best fighters in the UFC right now. Says like it doesn't matter who stands against me. I'm ready to fight as long as they have that number one contender name, or if the UFC says you got to fight him, I'll fight him, and that's what it is. And styles make fights, and I think this particular fight has got all the right elements to make it an extremely exciting fight. Arman doesn't hold back. He's extremely good with his wrestling. He's extremely agile and flexible. Then you've got Islam, he needs no introduction, man. Like I mean, he's achieved in the sport of MMA and in the UFC is nothing short of impressive. And we know how he fights. That Dustin Poirier fight again. If you're an MMA fan, you've got to watch that fight, the Dustin Poirier Islam fight. What a fight! And then to be able to get that finish, to withstand the weather the storm, such to say, and then to come back and finish him. Just he could have just he was winning that fight. Let's be honest, he was, at least in my books, he was winning that fight. He could have kept that fight going, and he would have won that decision. But still looking for that finish in that last round. Pretty impressive stuff. It's got all the makings to be a classic, and I'm extremely happy that we're getting this at the start of the year. I feel like this main event will set the tone for the rest of the main events and the championship fight. So, yeah, man, I'm excited.
Yeah, spot on, man. I'm the same. Got to think that this is, arguably up there with, one of the best main events that we would have seen all last year, even. Most anticipated. Tsarukyan's, deserving of this shot coming up. Great styles, like you said, the matchup specifically. No real weaknesses from either side. Well rounded, striking as well. But obviously, we know the grappling and the
Yeah,
strength as well. The agility, the speed. It's going to be it's going to be amazing. I can't wait. Um, Before we go to the co-main, though, I got to ask you: is there a twist in this one that you see, like in sort of how you see it play out? Do you really feel like it's 50-50? Do you feel like one guy has more of an edge? Like, is there a twist in this one?
I think they're both. You said it best. They're well rounded. They're both well rounded. What that means is that wherever the fight goes, the other person will match each other. They'll match each other, whether it's on the mat or standing up. They're going to match each other. I don't think either person is going to take a back step. Right? They're going to have extreme belief in their skills, and especially like think of Arman. He's very young, and he does have an unwavering belief in himself. And then Islam, obviously, backed with his skills and experience that comes with it, and then Islam's become an household name. Everyone knows it. Even those who don't follow MMA as closely as some of us, they still know the names such as Islam, Makhachev, Khabib, and those kind of things. So I think the only edge probably is to Islam because of that experience that he's had. He's been constantly fighting the the top of the division. Right. Since breaking in and fighting for that title, Oliveira, Volkanovski twice, and then a tough fight that he went through against Volk, then Dustin Poirier. He's been there, he's been tested, he's been at the very top, and each time he's come out victorious. Say what you may, and all the if there's whatever controversies, either way, he's come out victorious, and he's gonna have that. I think when you look at Tsarukyan's record, yeah, look, he's got some solid wins too. He's knocked out Darius, he's beat Oliveira. That's commendable. Um, but I just feel like Islam, in terms of experience, all of that edge, and that's probably what's gonna help get that win. I do see this. I don't know, man. It's been hard. It's been back and forth in terms of how this fight plays out. I am predicting Islam Makhachev to get the job done and be and still. Um, I just don't know. Sometimes I feel like it's going to be a finish. Sometimes I feel it's just got the makings of a good decision fight, not one of those boring ones, but a good decision fight, like the Volkanovski fight. You know what I mean? Like when two high level fighters fight, you just that's what you get. But eventually, look, listen, I'm just gonna bite the bullet. I'm just gonna say it's actually gonna be a finish. I think Islam's gonna finish it.
Yeah, no, I was heading that way, man. I was going to say I predict either a finish or a submission. KO, sorry, a finish,
Yeah,
but a KO or a submission.
yeah,
I don't see this one going the distance.
yeah,
I think just not that it's not going to be competitive. I think it's not going to be lopsided. I just feel like, like you said, they're both so dangerous, well rounded. One guy is just going to get another guy in a compromising position,
yeah,
due to being, like stunned or
yeah.
wobbled, and then get the choke or
I
something
just think
else.
100%. I just think Arman is very frantic when it comes to fighting. High pace, obviously the reason why we get these exciting fights with him. But I just also think he fights very frantic. He tends to set that high pace and that pressure for himself, and he goes hard. But what that tends to do is sometimes you end up in compromised situations, like the time that he landed in one of those chokes with Oliveira, where we thought that fight was going to finish. Right? Um, you get caught in one of those with Islam, and we know the insane strength Islam possesses, you're going to get submitted. And I feel that's what's going to happen. Probably in terms of that, in that pace they set, it's just going to be so frantic. The fight's going to be so frantic, and he's going to probably end up in in a, in a, in a in a threatened position, and probably get submitted. That's just what I feel. But agree with you, it'll be a very, very competitive fight. There won't be like a skill gap. I feel like it'll be a very competitive fight.
Yeah, definitely, man. We both see this as being candidate for fight of the night,
Yeah,
potentially fight, early fight of the year. Let's hope it lives up to the billing, you know. Let's hope it goes all 5 rounds and then we get a fantastic ending. But yeah, two
yeah,
pit bulls going at it, and we can't wait to talk about it after. Now the co-main, Merab Dvalishvili versus Umar Nurmagomedov.
yeah,
Another guy you mentioned from the gym,
yeah.
and obviously this one, man, this is going to be really competitive. You know, Merab, he just doesn't quit. He's got a motor, and how do you see this one going?
Man, everything we said for the main event applies to this fight too. Because same thing, Marab's gone through murder as well to get to this title. He's beaten everyone, and he's got what he's a rightful champ. Let's say that. Umar, same thing, man. I know there's a lot of talk, especially from Merab, that I think there's a little bit of tension, and which is going to add some excitement to the press conference. I feel like it's going to be more fireworks between the two in the core main and the main at the press conference. But I still think Umar Nurmagomedov has been his record's unblemished. He's fought really good contenders, and let's not forget the last person he beat was Corey Sandhagen, who for the most part, everyone believed and still believe that he's got that there's a he's in that title picture, right? And he beat him quite convincingly. I actually rewatched that fight very recently, and I feel it's just it's sometimes surprising that they people feel that maybe Umar doesn't fit into this title shot. I disagree. I think he is, and I think he's going to have a good showing. To be honest, I think it's a tough ask to beat Merab because he is a machine. He is unstoppable, man. Like his pressure, his pressure wrestling, and his sort of like never back down attitude. He'll go forward regardless, willingness to take damage. Um, but the one thing I see though is that Umar is a little bit more well rounded. What I mean by that is his striking is a lot more sharper than Merab, right? Um, and but I feel like in the wrestling grappling department they sort of balance each other, right? And even in the pressure department they sort of balance each other. Man, this um, Khabib's gym, they just that's their motto. They train under pressure, right? They do like 50 rounds of sparring. Who knows, right? They just all they can set the pace and they can fight 10 rounds if they have to, right? So that's not going to be a problem, and wrestling's not going to be a problem. But like there is that striking element where Umar is a little bit better. I feel than Merab. Having said that, you're always going to say, hey, look, Merab fought Sean O'Malley, who's probably one of the best strikers in the UFC, which he is. So he still wasn't able to do anything. How come Umar can? But I think what we tend to forget is that Umar has that threat of wrestling, solid wrestling, right? So you can't with Sean O'Malley. Let's be honest, Merab probably wasn't expecting Sean O'Malley to shoot on him, so he could always have his guard up and navigate as needed and shoot in himself. Whereas with Umar, you can't do that. You got to be ready to defend that takedown, which tends to drop your guard a little bit. And what's to say that Umar fakes a takedown, comes up on top, and catches you? There is that risk. It's a tough fight to predict, man. Like if I could predict how the main event's going to end. This one, I just can't predict a winner. It's really hard. It's just a stab in the dark for me, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. I think both are just so well rounded again, but obviously so advanced in their grappling, and both come forward. Marab, I'm going to give him the slight edge though on this one. His
Yeah,
performance against Sean was so impressive, and yeah, this would be an upset for me. But Umar, I think he's going to give him a great challenge, and
yeah,
this has again another candidate to be fight of the night,
Yeah.
potentially, because obviously, just energy fireworks, like you said.
Yep, no, I'm with you. I'll give the edge to Merab as well because of that. Again, championship caliber, the experience, and the level of fighters he's fought. I know what he did to Henry Cejudo, man. Like I've never seen anyone do that to Henry Cejudo. So, yeah, I'll give him the slight edge, but I think this is going the distance. I don't think anyone's getting finished in this fight.
Okay, yeah, I could see that. I'm gonna just be contrary and just be say there's a finish in this one as well.
Okay,
Is this a 5 rounder?
it is
This
a
would
five
be
rounder
right.
championship
Yeah.
fight. Yeah. Championship fight. So it'll definitely be a five rounder. Wolf, we got the next one is in the from the ever exciting light heavyweight division ruled by the King Alex Pereira.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah, we got Hill versus Prohashka. Man, I don't know. It's a fireworks fight. Right? It's a three rounder fireworks fight. Um, I think after the Ankalaev fight, I reckon the winner of this will probably fight again for the title, especially if it's Hill who wins because he's had that one loss. The fight wasn't long enough. There's conversations about how the camp wasn't long enough. It was sort of short notice, but it's an exciting fight, mate. It's a fight for the fans. It's going to be. There's going to be. There's been a lot of chatter, especially from Hill, not just towards Prohashka, but since that loss to Alex Pereira, it's just been very interesting in terms of everything that's happened. And Hill's obviously stood his ground. And regardless, man, like say what you may, he's a good fighter. Right, just you cannot discount him based on that performance with Alex Pereira. Right, what he did to Glover Teixeira when Glover Teixeira was actually pretty solid and going on a run himself, and we know he gave Jiri a run for his money, right? And we then know what Hill did to Prohashka. Sorry, Hill did to Teixeira. Having said that, it's a pretty exciting fight. It's again another stab in the dark, man. Like I feel maybe Giri's those two losses to Alex has probably lit a fire in him that he just wants to reinvent things. His problem is the defense, right? Like his fighting style is very unique, where he does tend to take a lot of damage while inflicting damage. While it could work with some people, it may not work with everyone. A power puncher like Alex Pereira is going to catch you, and Hill possesses the same power. So if you go in with the technique of okay, it doesn't matter, I'll take a couple of shots. If one of those shots lands on the money, you're going down, right? And he's gone down twice now, right? And he also got wobbled by Rakic. So it's an interesting. Prakash is in an interesting place at the moment, right? But he also probably knows if he loses this, he's going to find himself um, in a very difficult spot in terms of climbing up back up the rankings. Two losses to the champ. Yes, they were both short notice, but still. And then another loss to another number one contender is not going to bode well in terms of his rankings. Then on the other end, you got Jamal Hill, who's come in, obviously lost that one fight since his major injury slash recovery, came back, fought Alex Pereira, UFC 300, right, and he lost that fight. Then it's been interesting. He was booked to fight Khalil Roundtree, and now, especially after seeing Roundtree fight Pereira, we know how interesting that fight would have been. And he had to pull out because of lingering injuries. That's good because we want to see the best version of him because he is a good fighter. But there's been a lot going on in terms of his social media and in terms of we see him responding to fans. So that kind of shows that he's emotionally charged and he does tend to take things personally in terms of what's being said. I don't know if that'll play a part in terms of the mentality. Like if maybe he's putting too much pressure on himself to go in and win, like sort of back the talk. And will that play against him? Will that pressure that he's put on himself play against him? It could go either way. That pressure could help, where he could deliver a stellar performance, or it could go the other way, where it puts a little bit of pressure on him, which then compromises his ability to just focus on the fight, shut out the noise, and focus on the fight. And so far, I feel he hasn't been able to because he has been sort of responding to all the all the negativity that some of them are unwarranted, man. Like I mean, he's a good fighter, and I just feel like sometimes the internet's not too kind. But either way, will that play a part? So interesting fight. I'm gonna go with Hiri Prohashka.
Mm. Um, I think, yeah, this you summed it up. This bout, this is so important for both fighters, in their careers, and both coming off losses, and plenty of talent, so much to prove. Some would say unfulfilled potential as well, with getting so close a couple of times, both having their cracks at Alex Pereira, you know, and both obviously getting finished. So I think, yeah, a lot of pride in this one, man. And I could just see two desperate fighters. And now it could either be cagey. I could see it go that way, like in terms of both being a bit scared to, like you said,
Yeah,
to
yeah,
to to
yeah,
to,
yeah.
to, to lose
Agree.
too easily and get caught. And I could also see it the opposite, where, like you said, it just guys just going to throw caution to the wind, because they both don't take a step back.
Yeah,
Um, this is probably the hardest for me to pick, man. Just terms, I could see both finishing each other, but I'll go with Yuri
yeah. And
as
it'll be
well.
a finish, man. Whoever wins, it's gonna be a finish. This ain't going to the decision. Let's be honest. This is not going to go to a decision. Hey, we got Darius Moicano next. Money Moicano, who's had like a massive resurgence, man, since that one fight. I can't recall, but then he just took the mic. It was in New York, and he just went nuts. And since then, he's become this massive fan favorite. And yeah, his skills on the mic are important to make it big in the UFC, but it means nothing if you can't back it up with your performance. He has been able to. He's had some crazy comeback wins. The one against Jalen Turner. He's fought the BSD Benoit Saint Denis in France or Paris, and then beats him, gets on another iconic mic moment. He's riding high on momentum, whereas Benil Dariush is coming in with two back-to-back losses, not just losses to knockout losses or TKOs, whatever you want to call it, against Oliveira and Tsarukyan. Not there's no shame in losing to those two. We know how high they are ranked, but the downfall of Dariush has been quite heartbreaking, to be honest, because at one point he was in conversation to be fighting for a title. He had that 8 fight win streak, and he was meant to fight Islam, and he had a 9 fight win. That was that fight that was going to answer all questions, bro. Benil had to pull out due to an injury, and sadly it's just been a different trajectory for him. uh, he's a great fighter. His skill set's very good. It's just, I don't know, man. The momentum's just against him, and I feel like going against someone who has good momentum on their side, it's just going to be an interesting fight. But then again, Moicano has got. He is also someone who does take some damage when he fights, but he's also very durable. Benil Dariush, on the other hand, hits really hard. Right, he's had some pretty iconic knockouts himself. Again, a toss up, man. This is why this card is pretty good, man. Again, it's a toss up. I'm just gonna go with Moicano, just purely based on the momentum. That's it.
Yeah, man, I could see this one being over quickly. I'm not going to lie. I think fireworks in this
Yeah,
one.
yeah,
Both, you know, like you said, it's going to be hard because Moicano, can take damage, comes forward.
yeah,
Dariush hits so hard as well. Three
yeah,
rounds, so got to get in there, get your points, or get the finish. So yeah, I
yeah.
do think this one's going to be fireworks. So exciting, and yeah, I'm a fan of Moicano as well, so I'll give him the edge.
Oh man,
Um,
we're in agreement. Usually, when we are in agreement for all 5 fights, they tend to go the other way. So let's see. All right. Oh, you know what? The main card opener is a banger of a fight, but also one of your favorites, Kevin the Trailblaze Holland, man. So Kevin Holland's fighting Renier de Ridder, the Dutch fighter. For those who don't know Renier de Ridder, he is a middleweight and light heavyweight champion uh, from one championship. He held the championship, so his record's 18-2. He is a great fighter. It's just that he's not known much to this part of the MMA world, I would say, because one championship predominantly is in the Eastern market. Man, I'm glad they signed him. I think he's a middleweight, but yeah, pretty solid fighter, man. Like if you were a champion in another organization, regardless of the caliber of the organization, it is commendable. And his first fight, he's got a win already in the UFC, but this is a massive step up in competition. You are going against a talented fighter in um, Kevin Holland. Actually, to
A
be honest,
gatekeeper.
yeah. I mean, yeah. I actually stand corrected. I can't say massive step up in competition because he did fight Gerald Meerschaert, who's a veteran in the UFC and a submission artist, and he submitted him in round three. So that speaks volumes of his skills. And he's going up against Kevin Holland, now, who's a more brash spoken, but also he translates that into his fighting style too. He's very brash, doesn't take a step back, willing to throw down. How well can Derrida be able to withstand that? That's actually going to be the question, I think. But we also have seen Kevin Holland, although he submitted Chiesa, he does, especially in the bigger weight class, he does have trouble against grapplers. So yeah, man, it's an interesting fight though.
Yeah, man. Welcome to UFC moment in this one. I'm going to go with my man, Kevin the Trailblazer Holland.
Okay.
I think he's due for a win. He's due for a big one. I just love him because he's an entertainer, and it
Yeah.
stems sort of from the big run during COVID, where he just fought like 3 times in about 6 months, and
Yeah.
his style, he comes forward, but
Yeah.
he has flashy knockouts, and he just takes punishment as well. He's just entertaining,
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, he's gonna. Yeah, this is going to be a banger that could set the tone for the whole main card. Who are you going to take?
Man, it's gonna be a toss up. Um, I'm gonna go the other way. I'm gonna go with D Ritter only because I mean I think his grappling is legitimate, and he's going to be able. And being a champion in another organization, your fight IQ is up there, and you're able to adapt to conditions. Right, and Kevin Holland's fighting style is well documented, so there's a lot of tape to study as well. So I think he's going to come in prepared, and I think he's going to be able to implement the game plan that he wants to be able to get the win. And that's what I feel. I think it's a finish. I think D. Ritter submits him. That's what I'm going to go with. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds, yeah, definitely plausible because I think the experience of Derrida, being, like you said, being a champion
Yeah.
in another organization shows that you got the pedigree and your experience as well. So I think we'll see how big the bright lights affect him versus a very seasoned UFC fighter in Holland.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm already salivating over this one as we've broken down the main card. Anything else stand out to you?
No, man, like pretty solid card. Even there's some more fights all the way down to the early prelims. I know we only covered the main card, but we did speak a lot on that purely because it is warranted. Um, Not a card that you'd want to miss, especially if you're not just a diehard MMA fan, just an MMA fan. Skill set wise, you're going to get everything from flashy knockouts to fight of the nights. Everything. This has the ingredients for all of that. So I would say definitely recommend a watch. Um, yeah, man, like three more sleeps, and we get down. We get to see the press conference tomorrow morning for us, and then yeah, and I'm surprised they kept it. And we've got to mention this as well. I'm surprised they continue to leave it in LA, given what's happening, and our thoughts go out to those affected in the fires over there. But yeah, like I just thought, man, they might move it to be honest to Vegas, which is their solid um, location. Having said that, probably the revenue that gets generated from this is going to help the state as well, I believe.
Yeah, that's a good call. And also, yeah, man, echo your your thoughts and prayers, obviously, out to everyone affected. Um, you know, Obviously, it's a tough time, but yeah, this can hopefully add a nice bright spark to the city that's going through a tough period. But yeah, I think where it's situated, that area hasn't really been affected as much
Yeah,
in terms of the arena location. And so yeah, let's hope that everything goes ahead according to plan. Obviously, all the fighters are there, in camp and
yeah,
ready to get it going, right? So
ready to
yeah,
rumble.
ready to rumble, like you said. Look forward to chatting DJ when we recap it after the event, and
100%.
everyone yeah, give us a follow, a like on our social platforms as well. Instagram X, Twitter, formerly Twitter as well. At That's a Tap, and you have our reactions there as well. And let's talk about the event and grade it after the event. And it's going to be full of fireworks, DJ. Can't wait.
Absolutely, man. Can't wait. It's going to be a good event.